Hello everyone. Today I'm covering errors that arise from incorrect project creation in Eclipse. I will have a description that links to different parts of the video to save you some time. Although this video is covering errors in Eclipse, I'll try to explain them well enough so that this info is transferable to other IDEs. These errors mostly come from incorrect main package issues and incorrect class creation. Today I am using Eclipse Neon, which is the newest version of Eclipse right now as of January 2017. I may link a video just discussing IDEs. I am also using Java 8, which is the newest version of Java as of this month. So, I'm going to go and start Eclipse and make a project. Now, I will close this workspace window. I'll go to File, New, Java Project, and then I will name this Video Project and click Finish. You'll see that the Package Explorer and the editor area opens up. So I'll go and open up the video project and right-click Source, which is the SRC folder, and then go to New and click Class. I will name it Error Tester, no underscore, camel case, and capitalize the first letter, and if the public static void main is checked, I will uncheck it for learning purposes. Please note that I have the font made a little bit bigger for you all to see better. So before we continue, I need to explain what packages are. What I'm going to do is create a second class, but this time I'm going to add a package called useless, then name it test2 with the main method included, down here. Notice now you have a default package and a package called useless with the class test2 contained in it. You'll see that compared to error tester, test2 has a line of code that states what package it is currently in. Error tester does not need this line of code since it is in the default package, so it is already assumed that it belongs to the base package. Now, if we remove it and try running the program, we will get an unresolved compilation error. And if we hover over the error message in the editor, it says the declared package blank does not match the expected package useless. Since the class is contained in the file called useless, the compiler is trying to figure out why the class file does not state the package it is in. Please note it is a very bad habit to run the IDE without fixing these obvious compiler errors. I plan to have a video in the future for explaining packages in more detail. Now, I will delete this package so we only concern ourselves with the default package. If we try running it right now, you'll see that it is still trying to find the other class, test2. Why is this? Well, we need to ask ourselves what the compiler is looking for when we press run. The compiler is looking for a public static void main method. Inside of the parentheses of the main method must always be some kind of variable that is of a string array data type. The variable name can be whatever name you give it, however usually it is given the name of args. Now, I have added the main method, so what you want to do in Eclipse is first make sure that the file you want to run is selected, and then you click run. Notice that we don't get any error messages, and since we are not trying to display anything, nothing shows up. What we're going to do is add something so that we can get some text on the console. Now, if we try running it, it works. We have a hello world text in the console. Now, we can go and mess around with this. We can go and change the return type, and then try running it. And notice that we get an error, because it is looking for a void main method, not an int main method. So, if we go and redo that, run it, still works. We can change to public, we remove it, we get another error, and we can get rid of the static method and try running it. Notice that there aren't any obvious errors here, however you'll get the error when you try running it. And it states that you need to define a main method, which new programmers might be confused by this, because this looks like a main method. However, this is completely different from this. Those two methods that we originally had, this one and the one without this, are treated as two completely separate bodies of code. Now, the nice thing is that in the editor, you can go and remove the code at the beginning, and you still won't get any errors, because public is usually assumed, and a method can either be static, or if it's not static, you simply don't put it there. So you can remove this. You don't get any errors. However, obviously when you run it, you still will run into the error. So always you need to have all three present in the file that you're trying to run. So in conclusion, if a file you're trying to run won't run, then your main is probably wrong. This will happen if you capitalize main, change the parameter type, or change any of the three words that come before it. However, the one thing that you can change in this statement is this. That will work just fine because this is just a variable name. However, args is used because it stands for arguments, and it is always named that way to avoid confusion when other people look at your code. Those were the more complicated errors. Things like missing brackets hopefully should be pretty obvious. Just make sure to always code neatly, or else you may make this mistake many times. An example of bad coding would look something like this. This is very, very bad coding, and if you go and work for your employer, they will probably be pretty mad at you and have you go and fix this. Notice that this code is extremely hard to read, and you cannot count how many brackets there are supposed to belong to the other ones. And if you have more complicated code, such as loops or if statements, the number of brackets here would grow quite a bit. Now, the nice thing about Eclipse is it is telling me to delete this extra token. And if you try running this, you'll see that this does work. However, this is extremely sloppy, so I would always avoid coding like this. Always remember that a class and a method are very different. Do not put parentheses after classes, or you will get this error. Notice that you get a more confusing error in the editor. It's asking to insert an extra bracket. Now why is this? Well, it is thinking that you're trying to make some kind of method, even though you're trying to make a class. This is confusing the entire IDE. And if we try running this, you'll get a large bundle of errors, all coming from putting parentheses after your class. Also, always make sure that this name matches the file name. If you go and make it lowercase, you'll get an error saying that error tester must be defined in its own file. Now what may be confusing about this is, you might say, well, I already have a file here, it's already defined. Well, since you made this lowercase, and since Java is case sensitive, these two are referencing two completely different kinds of files. So what you need to do is make it uppercase. This also goes for spelling. So if you add an extra E, you'll get the same file error. If we try running this, it will not be able to find the error tester file, because this is very different. As some personal advice, I would always try to make sure that the words I use to describe my classes and my methods are easy to type and make sense. This also happens if you go into your file explorer and try changing the name here, but don't change the actual text inside of it. So always make sure that when you're going to change a file name, that it will be reflected inside of the file. This can also happen for methods. As we discussed earlier, main, if you make it capitalized, then it just will not work. But that should be all. Let me know if there is anything I could include, or if I missed something important.